Well, welcome back. Pleased to be rejoined by Vic Hawk and also Chase Hawk of the Hawk Law Group. Our topic tonight all about injuries, and in a moment we're going to take an interesting question about a tractor-trailer accident that happened just a couple of days ago, but we want to turn to the telephone lines. Lois is here from South Carolina, and Lois, we understand you have a question related to neglect.
Yes, sir. I sure do. Okay, let me read you this paper that comes from the doctor. It says, Dear Mr. Allen, his name is Alan Brown, which is my husband. He said that Dear Mr. Brown was hospitalized from March the 8th of 2021 till the 14th of 21. The doctor's hospital in Augusta. He was treated for an infection, but upon arrival of a admission, he did not have a sore at his admission. However, when he was discharged on March the 14th, he had a left heel ulcer. He was first seen by, South Carolina's got this thing now where they come to your house. Well, the doctor ordered wound care, and it's not healed yet, but when he come home, it was 2 days, and they had something like a pink thing on his heel. So second day he was home, I'm going to see what was under it. So I took it off, and it was big and black, and it had a deep hole. And his foot still is not well. He could not walk on it. It was painful. And I got pictures of every day that I took care of him and changed it at night, every morning. It's the same routine. But I got pictures from the day that I seen it till today. So, and I got papers. I got his medical records from the people that has took care of his wound and from SC House Calls. So we're in a dilemma here.
How old is Mr. Brown?
He is 67.
Does he have diabetes?
No, sir.
Okay. Has he ever had bed sores or these kind of sores before?
No, sir.
Okay.
He wasn't
Chase?
in there except from the 8th to the 14th. Or the 6th to the 14th.
Okay. Yeah, so anytime you're under the care of a medical professional for any particular service, there are a set of guidelines that they have to follow. If you present with a cold, they're supposed to write your certain prescription, or in most cases, not write your prescription. If you have a MRSA infection, there's a set of antibiotics they're supposed to try in a certain order. You're supposed to do A, B, and C for any patient. Now, Mr. Brown came in with some sort of infection, and the hospital was supposed to follow certain set of protocols to take care of him, to heal his infection. And in the interim, they were probably supposed to be checking for these types of bed sores. And you'll be able to go back through the record to see whether or not they were actually doing this. And you'll be able to see when they actually discovered it, and see if what they actually did for Mr. Brown was a breach of the protocols that they're supposed to take. And usually, in most cases, you'll have to have an expert that is very familiar with these protocols and can say, yes, this is a breach of the standard of care. And not only that, but this breach is what actually caused the injury in this case. So in order to actually move forward with the case, you would need to get it to a lawyer, and that lawyer is going to need to have some medical professionals actually review the records to find this breach in the standard of care, and also testify or make an opinion about the causation of the breach of the standard of care. And then and only then are you going to be able to hold them responsible. But there's an extra wrinkle in medical cases right now, and that is the COVID-19 wrinkle. And that basically there's a lot of liability that's being forgiven, or people are given immunity in certain situations because of the added stress and dangers added to COVID-19, and it causes hospitals and care homes to actually limit the number of people that are on staff that are treating patients, and because of that, it will be harder. I'm not sure because how these things are going to shake out has not actually come into full view yet, but it is going to be harder to hold these medical professionals responsible for negligence that occurred during this global pandemic.
I want to add something for LOIS to consider. When an evaluation is done concerning a medical case, it has to be one that includes consideration of the nature and extent of the injury. In other words, is Mr. Brown going to have a serious permanent injury that causes serious consequences to him for the rest of his life? A medical malpractice claim is very, very expensive. You're required to get certified copies of all the medical records. You're required to hire an expert to determine if there has been a breach of the standard of care. The likelihood of success in a medical malpractice case is very low unless there is a clear breach of the standard of care. Of the lawsuits that are filed, statistically, it's right at 5 to 10% that are successful. So you're talking about a very difficult case under very difficult circumstances of COVID that's very expensive, and you have to weigh the practical reality of costs necessary to prove the case. Do we like this? No, but it is the practical reality of dealing with one of those kinds of cases. And at this point in time, it's difficult to determine, Lois, if the nature and the extent of the injury is going to justify the cost to pursue the claim, assuming there is a claim.
Vic, so Lois is probably going to get a bill in the next several weeks, I suppose. It could be, it doesn't have to be the hospital she mentioned, could have been any hospital. Is it something you could sit with somebody from the hospital, at least to start with, and say, hey, I don't know that we got the best care. What can we do to work things out? Is that possible?
I think it has to be a clear breach of the standard of care, because these conditions, as described by Lois, occur naturally and incidental to an injury or incidental to treatment at a hospital. We understand how difficult it is to show a breach of standard of care. And these hospitals and these doctors will fight very aggressively against these types of cases. And they have a lot of protections. So you need an expert. You need definitely a very good trial lawyer to know if you have a case.
Okay, fair enough.